learn patience. Like I was very impatient. I was an emotional wreck most of the time. And I think it had a lot to do with just the anxiety, obviously, of this new thing. But so I'll give you a little better backstory actually, because it kind of my experience is compounded a little bit. So my eldest is actually my stepdaughter, and so I, while she's not my biological child, I got into the picture when she was 4, and so I was dealing with her and understanding our dynamic and developing a rapport for a couple of years, and then my son comes along, and so I'm like not battling, but like learning how to be a father to a child that I kind of just crashed into almost, and then my son now starts to come about, and so my patience was very thin. I wasn't mentally like uh I wouldn't say prepared. I was definitely prepared. I just was all over the place. So being able to have patience was going to be kind of like
Mm,
would have been the antidote, I think.
yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful advice.
So, quick follow up. There's a lot of step parents out there. There's a lot of stepdads. Given your experience, what are some of the things that you've learned in that journey um, that you think would be helpful for kind of guys stepping into that role, just getting started, or very early on in becoming a stepfather? What are some things that have worked very well for you? Because blending families is a challenging thing. It doesn't happen overnight, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's probably
Um
much needed advice.
I'd say the first thing the first thing I thought about like intentionally, I was not in competition with her father. So I made it a point to make sure that she knew she should foster a relationship with her dad, her biological father. I would support her in all of that, and I didn't want it to be a rivalry in any way. Unfortunately, he never stood up and kind of really bonded with her the way I think he should have. But so she doesn't look at anybody else as a dad, me, right? But I would say that's first, because if you enter that relationship as it being a rivalry, you're going to do that child a big
Yeah,
disservice. And now it becomes about you and that other
right.
person versus that child.
That is such wise advice, man. I love that.
So
Sorry, I didn't mean
I
to.
say that's the first thing. And then, and sorry, the second thing is really doing a good job in um, building a relationship with that child the way they need it to be built. And so there's a little bit of give and take there. So I'll give you an example. In my world, when I was introduced to her, and like my wife and I started getting serious, and it was okay for me to now come around because it was a serious relationship. Um, I felt a little disrespected by my stepdaughter at the time, because she was accustomed to kind of like being wild, and she didn't have a guy around, so she kind of treated me almost like a playmate, right? So every so often, like she'd smack me, and I was like, I'm not with this. I'm like, normally if I get smacked, I'm smacking you back, but I was like, I can't do that. So it took a little bit of learning, but I had to understand like she's not disrespecting you. She's not used to you. So she's playing with you, but you don't take it as playing. So you have to come to an understanding of what playing looks like and help her understand it from your perspective without jeopardizing her fun, right? And so that took a lot out of me to learn, because my ego got in the way a lot.
Mm,
And so I had to like really learn to put that down, and I'm grateful that my wife allowed us the opportunity to work through that and not kind of step in the way and feel like she had to play defense on both sides.
right. That's really good advice, man. And it's certainly a challenging thing, but you kind of volunteered for it, right? Like if you're if you're going to become a step parent, you obviously made that choice. So
Yeah.
it's going to be hard, but you need to take that responsibility seriously. And again, it comes back to meeting them where they're at, right? It's some humility, it's empathy, it's all these kind of things that we typically don't associate with masculinity, but in reality, they're the most masculine things we can provide in those situations. And it makes such a huge impact, because obviously, right? Like, fast forward to today, You guys have a very strong relationship. It sounds like you're very involved in her life. You've through your work and effort have restored a figure she needed in her life and have given her a lot of, preparation for real life when it's going to get hard that she wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's worth it. It's all worth it.
It is. It's a beautiful thing on the other side, but when you're going through it, like everything else, it's challenging, but you gotta go through it.